Hi, Sara.
Hi, Kyoko.
How are you?
I'm very good, thank you. How
Very
are
good.
you?
Very, very good. So today I want to ask you several questions about your work and your relationship with energy healing. Can I ask?
Of course, I'd love to talk about
That's
what I do.
great.
Yeah.
That's great because it's very unique and yeah. So let's start.
All
So
right.
yes. So I know you are Polarity practitioner, and when did you start? When did you graduate as an RPP, which is a registered Polarity practitioner?
Yeah, I graduated in around 2004, I believe. It was either 2003 or 2004. And
Mm-hmm.
I started with the Polarity training in 1999. Yeah.
1999. Mm.
Yeah. 1999. Yeah. And I did a lot of the cranial sacral classes. I
Mm-hmm.
think I pretty much did all of them with Gary and Tracy and Dina Fabroni.
Mm-hmm.
And then I did graduate as a registered Polarity practitioner, RPP.
Mm-hmm.
And I really enjoyed taking the classes. I went a lot on the retreats. I was in Hawaii a lot. I went to Switzerland.
Oh.
And then I did some classes in Topanga.
Mm.
And I really enjoyed it, but there comes a time when you have to start doing it,
Mm-hmm.
when you're no longer the student and you start practicing the work. And I'd
Right.
gotten to that place, but
Mm-hmm.
I also couldn't really envision myself being indoors all day doing table sessions.
Oh, I see.
So at the time when I graduated, I was working at a equine therapy ranch in
Mm-hmm.
Topanga,
Mm-hmm.
and I was just getting into horses. And
Oh, at that
yeah,
time.
yeah. And I decided to sort of integrate what I'd learned in the Polarity School,
Mm-hmm.
integrate it into what I was interested in doing with the horses.
Wow.
Yeah. So basically kind of integrating a therapy with the horses and then what I'd learned. And then I
Mm-hmm.
also used my skills in Polarity to relate to horses because I didn't have a lot of experience with horses. I didn't grow up with them or
Mm-hmm.
anything. And I got involved with horses later in life when I was 40, actually.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, it really helped me relate to horses, especially horses that were traumatized or abused, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and they really didn't want anything to do with people.
Mm-hmm.
And we had a few horses like that at the ranch where I worked. And yeah, so I used the principles, of resonance and rapport, and it worked.
Works.
It works. Yeah, it works with horses.
So I'd like to ask you, what was your job in the range?
I was basically running the place, and we would see kids and we would see special needs children, adults, and then cancer patients, people who had cancer would come. And yeah, like schools of kids. I mean, it was a lot. We saw a lot of people there, and I basically designed the programs,
Design
and
the program.
yeah, and I managed the horses. I took care of them. And yeah, so I learned a lot. I was at that job for 7 years, and I learned a lot about running an equine facility.
Uh-huh.
And so when I was ready to do my own business in 2008, I had the skills, the knowledge. And when I did start my own business, I wanted to do more of my healing work with the horses. That was more like, a little out there. and
Mm.
at that time I had just graduated as well from family constellation school.
Oh, I see.
Yeah,
So before we go there, I'd like to ask you several questions about you working with horses there and
mm,
also running the facility.
yeah,
The program is for caring the special needs kids or the cancer people.
yeah, all of it. Yeah,
All of it.
I was basically
Mm-hmm.
in charge of, overseeing the sessions when people came
Mm-hmm.
and deciding what horses would be a good match for people, or a
Wow.
specific way that we were going to do some work. But it was more like having people have an interaction with a horse, and like there was some riding involved,
Mm-hmm.
and it wasn't like um it it wasn't I knew there was way more potential to bring healing
I
to
see.
people with horses
I see.
than what I was kind of allowed to do, because it was, people really came there to ride, and the
Mm.
horses weren't able to. Some of them were so like wounded, or
Mm-hmm.
uh, they were traumatized, and they really
Yes.
didn't want to do that.
Right.
And, and so I used
Mm-hmm.
to come up with ideas of ways that people could interact with horses that didn't involve riding.
Mm-hmm. I see. This is my interest because the facility is receiving special needs people or cancer people who needs support and healing, and also the horses also sometimes traumatized or be
Yeah,
abused. So the
yeah,
horses also needs to be healed or need to
yeah,
support. So you were actually in the middle.
yeah, exactly. Because
Mm.
I like that's why I had a problem
Mhm.
with it, because there wasn't a lot of sympathy towards the horses. They were just looked at as a tool,
Ah,
for someone to have a good time with,
mhm,
and regardless of whether their back was sore, or whether they, you know, weren't very
uh-huh.
happy.
I see.
And as
Mhm,
I got deeper into the knowing horses and relating to them,
mhm,
I I felt them, had empathy towards them, and I
mhm.
didn't want to force them into doing
So
something.
it's bring me another question. So or that's made me understanding. So you have a transparent like a being between people to horses. What I've experienced in the range, and as I heard of you, like your notice about the business there or program there is one-way communication, only human being towards horses. Like they
Yeah,
don't listen how horses feeling or are actually feeling. So
yeah.
yeah.
What I noticed was that there wasn't room for the horses to be like ill, or like, or have something that might be of some concern, whether it was emotional trauma, or mental trauma. It was like they were to show up and be ready to have someone on their back, or
Mm-hmm.
or have someone like be all over them, like touching them and hugging them. And,
Mm-hmm.
like a lot of times the horses didn't want that.
Mm-hmm.
And it was kind of it could be dangerous,
Mm-hmm.
and I really wanted to teach relationship
Mm-hmm.
between people and horses, and how
Mm-hmm.
people can relate to horses in a way
Mm-hmm.
that's reciprocal.
Mm-hmm. I see. That's wonderful. That's very clear. So maybe you already taught me, but I would like to ask you again, what motivated you to start your own horse healing business?
Well, I wasn't very happy with the way that the place was run in the sense of, like there wasn't a lot of consideration put towards the horses. That's what I felt.
Mm-hmm.
And also, it felt kind of like out of integrity to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to leave, but I was really entangled in the job. Like my horses were getting paid to
Mm-hmm.
for their hay because my horses were part of the program because I had started it to adopt horses while I was there. So
Mm-hmm.
I was adopting horses who were rescues, and
Mm-hmm.
then I would rehabilitate them and then integrate them into the programs, and then I would get them their hay paid for. That was like the deal. I
Mm-hmm.
used to call it the hay roll instead of the payroll,
Oh.
the hay roll. And so I had, like 5 horses, I think, by then, or 6 horses, and they were all on the hay roll. And
Mm.
I was getting a salary, like, and
Mhm,
but I wasn't really happy there towards the end, and I actually got pushed out. It was almost like the universe conspires to like
mhm,
push you towards the path
mhm,
for me, where I really needed to go, which was like to do my own way of working with horses and people in a way that like educates people. It
mhm,
also like facilitates healing for people, and
mhm,
it has high regard for the horse, like high regard.
mm,
And I needed to do that, and so I was given an ultimatum because the place was going to move, and they said,
mhm,
well, either you come with us or you can stay here and do your own business. And so I chose the
mhm,
latter. I chose to stay and
mhm,
do my own business. So I kind of segued into it.
mhm,
Like I said, I had already graduated um, from the family constellation
mhm,
training.
mhm,
And so then I tried that with the horses, and that was amazing. And so I was really excited and motivated to do my own business, and
mhm,
it worked out. I'm still doing it, and it's
mhm.
12 years later. Yeah.
Wow, that's wonderful. So I'm very curious about how you told me before your horses there at that time was heavily traumatized and was very difficult to relate in the beginning, but you made some amazing rebuilt relationship with that special horses. Would you tell me about the story with the horses?
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
Well, when I was working at the place, the equine therapy place,
Mm-hmm.
when I first started, there was a horse there, a mare,
Mm-hmm.
who nobody could get near her. She would like run away if you tried to put her on a rope or anything, and she would scream and like running up the road.
Mm.
And she had a lot of health issues. She had a parasitical sores all over her,
Mm. What?
and
Mm-hmm.
parasites were eating
Ah.
her. And so she had open wounds on her legs
Oh.
and on her
Oh.
face.
Mm-hmm.
And so she needed to be treated, and nobody could get near her. And she was the one who really showed me that when you do, when you approach a horse like you would approach someone like you do in a session, in a polarity session or a cranial sacral session,
Mm-hmm.
when you're neutral and you have no investment
Mm-hmm.
and you listen, you use your listening skills instead of trying to dominate or like overrun, you know, you
Mm-hmm.
just like listen. And I did that with her, and she responded, and she started to trust me. I mean, it took time, but I was consistent. I
Mm-hmm.
never changed my behavior with her. And
Mm-hmm.
after a while, she knew I was coming. She could hear me, and she would be waiting for me, and I would let her out, and I didn't have to put a rope on her. She would just come out. I would give her food. She was very skinny, so I was feeding her up.
Mm.
And she started to trust me, and it was like it was kind of
Wow.
like a love affair. Like we fell in love. It's like crazy.
Wow.
And she showed me so much. She taught me a lot, and I ended up adopting her because
Wow.
the owner of the ranch really didn't like this horse because she cost a lot of money from the vet, and she wasn't able to use her in any of the programs because of her behavior and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But what happened was I actually was able to put like small children on her,
Mm-hmm.
and
Wow.
I got to a place where she had regular clients, and I didn't tell my boss till like few months later, and I said, I think Athena needs to go on the payroll. And she said, Athena? And I said, yeah. And she said, no way. And I said, well, she's actually been working with kids. And she
Wow.
couldn't believe it. And so she came down and watched. And sure enough, Athena was there, and the kid loved her.
Wow.
And so then Athena got on the payroll.
Wow. That's really amazing. I can cry.
Yeah, it
It's
was.
so emotional touched.
Yeah, she just wanted some stability, and she needed to trust someone because
Mm-hmm.
she had been passed around. She was a horse that was damaged by people, like big
Mm.
men riding her. They were too big, and they didn't know what they were doing, and they just like she had a really bad lameness, like her legs weren't good.
Oh, oh, wow.
And that's why I could only have her with tiny kids, like
Mm-hmm.
under 40 pounds, so she could
Mm-hmm.
manage that. And
Mm-hmm.
also no bits and nothing in her mouth that would like hurt her. Like I did
Mm-hmm.
it in a way where she wanted to do it. Like it wasn't like I was forcing her. Like
Mm-hmm.
she enjoyed it because she started feeling confidence in herself and worthiness and value, all
Mm-hmm.
those things, because she'd been told she was useless, and she had been passed around. So one person didn't want her, they gave it to someone else, and they said,
Wow.
this horse is terrible, I don't want her. And then she ended up at the ranch, and then
Mm-hmm.
one day
Mm-hmm.
the owner put an ad in the paper and said, a free horse, come and get her. And
Mm.
all these people showed up, and they were saying, oh, is that her? Oh my god, she's so skinny. And it was
Mm.
so sad. Like her head just got lower and lower and lower until it was practically on the ground by the end of the day.
Oh.
I
Oh.
know, because no one wanted her, and she was for free. And it was so painful to witness that. And I told the boss, I said, if you do that again, I'm
Mm-hmm.
leaving, because this is
Wow.
this is a rescue play. You're supposed to rescue these horses.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot just give them away, like that. And like,
Mm-hmm.
and her, like it. I said, like, if you do that again, I'm leaving. So she said, no, no, I'm not going to do that. But then she after a while she said, yeah, I'm going to give her away. And I said, okay, then give her to me. I'll take her. So
Wow.
I adopted her. But she lived another 3 years with me, and then she
Mm.
died. It was pretty sad, but
Mm.
she was had a good life with me, and it was,
Yeah.
yeah. She was a
Wow.
really good teacher for me, very good teacher, because she showed me that horses can turn around. They
Mm-hmm.
can start to trust again if you
Wow.
can
Mm-hmm.
give the space and the time,
Mm-hmm.
and not invade them all the time with what you want from them.
Mm-hmm. Wow, this is a very, very sacred journey, and this is a real journey to be healed.
Yeah,
So yeah, you did it, and now I feel like I touched the deeper part of your work. Thank you so much,
yeah,
yeah, for telling me
yeah. I
that.
thank you for asking. I mean, all the horses now have a background where they weren't wanted. They were like going to go to slaughter, or they basically they didn't their destiny was not looking good. And
Mm,
so what really interests me is to have a horse that from that kind of background
mm-hmm,
that nobody wants, and then
mm,
to find what that horse is good at, find what that horse likes to do,
mm.
what talent
Wow.
does the horse have. And it's not right away, because in the beginning they're so traumatized. All they need to heal from that. So you have to give them time so they can like feel relaxed, and that you're not going to send them away again, or, that they're stable. And then from there, I just find out like what they're good at. And some horses really like to perform, and like, so I do the dancing with them. Some horses love to dance. And then some horses uh, really like to explore and go out and like to be ridden. There's some horses that like that. And then there's some horses that don't want to be ridden, but they like to go for a walk, or that. And then there's some horses that are incredible at the therapy, like absolutely incredible.
Wow.
Yeah. So I find like what they like to do, and then I encourage that, and then they feel good about themselves because they have value.
Right. So this is very meaningful because your way is always like a two-way communication, and the horses with you are actually having the experience to be healed.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. And then they pass that on, like
yeah.
when people come here, they want to heal from trauma or whatever. And because people love horses. They love to be in the presence of a horse, and they're so majestic and big, and calming, like they can calm people down, and just by their energy and just by being in their presence. But the horse has to be uh happy, you know,
Yes.
rehabilitated and happy and not scared of people. You can't have a horse who's scared of people doing
Right.
therapy. It's not gonna work.
Right. So you are actually giving the horses with a lot of love and support and the healing, and also the beautiful location where you are now.
Yeah,
So like a horse live with like a integrity with a relationship
yeah,
with you as a
yeah,
human, and
yeah,
coherence is there.
yeah.
So
It's
that's
really
very
important.
wonderful. Mm-hmm.
It's very important to me that the horses have a choice, and
Mm-hmm.
that the horse is not being used as a slave, you
Mm-hmm.
know,
Mm-hmm.
or exploited in any way, you
Mm-hmm.
know. Like I've had some horses that really, you know, it took them a long time to be able to be around people.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I used to do is photograph them and, you know,
Mm-hmm.
use them as a muse, like as a model, like because
Mm.
horse is so beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
And there's always ways in which you know that is like friendly towards the horse, in ways in which I can like integrate them into the business, but
Mm-hmm.
but they are also the business. It's not like my business, it's our business.
Mm-hmm. I see. I understand. Very interesting. So I have another question. I have a couple of more questions. So
Yeah.
you told me, you taught me about palpating the energy field with horses when I visited, and
Hmm.
at that time, uh, I learned a lot about fully presence in that moment, and
Hmm.
which we are learning in the energy healing body work, which is polarity therapy and craniosacral work. But with horses is really more real, like profound. Would you describe about why horses giving us so much teaching about the be presence
Yeah,
in the
yeah, I'd
energy
love to
field?
talk about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd love to talk about that, because that shows up in the therapy that I do here with the horses, when people are with the horses, or like in the constellation, the horse might come over.
Mhm.
And the same way with palpating, when you were listening to Jackie's field and
Mhm.
she became interested in you,
Mhm.
she came to you,
Mhm.
right? You didn't go to her, she came to you way across the other side, right?
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
she was aware that
Mhm.
you were listening to her and feeling her energy. You got her attention,
Mhm.
and that felt inviting to her. It felt safe, right?
Mhm.
Because
Mhm.
you weren't demanding anything from her or asking anything of her. You were just like, hey, I want to tune in and I'm
Mhm.
listening to your field.
Mhm.
And so she uh, she responded and came to you and then
Mhm.
and was really close with you. And there was a moment, I think I asked you a question, and then I
Mhm.
think you went into a thought
Mhm.
or something, and she walked away.
Right, the right away.
Yeah, exactly at that moment when you
Mhm.
went into a memory or a thought,
Mhm.
you lost her. And she
Mhm.
lost interest immediately at that moment because you kind of
Right.
broke the bond that you had with her, which was
Uh-huh.
being present with her, right?
Mhm.
And you were no longer interesting to her,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm. I
And
understand.
you understand, and it's
Yes.
really good with like in a constellation or any kind of therapy that I'm doing where it's
Mhm.
about, like being present with your body, being present with your feelings,
Mhm.
being present with the environment.
Mhm.
And then, with the horse there, it's almost like amplifying that.
Mm.
And then as soon as the person might go into a memory
Mhm.
or something like, well, I should be, or something like that, or
Mhm.
am I doing this right, or something like that, then
Mhm.
it breaks the relationship and the horse leaves, you know.
Right.
I mean, it's pretty consistent like that.
Mhm.
And so I can tell
Mhm.
now, I can tell by looking at the person, but originally I would tell, when the horse left, I knew that the person was no longer present in, you know,
Mhm.
moment. And then I would say, like, what happened? Like, were you thinking, But
Mhm.
now
Mhm.
I can almost tell, like, it's in the field, and
Mhm.
you can tell by body language and expression and just like the rhythm of the energy. There's a rhythm, and you can
Mhm.
feel when the rhythm changes when someone is not present anymore. Something like that.
Yeah, so which mean this is really great way to learn how we can keep our attention be in that presence.
Exactly. That's
And
why I keep
yeah, then
doing it.
also the feeling, the open our perception, like be in the present, same time listening.
Yes, exactly.
That is
Like
very
you would,
important learning.
yeah, like you would want to be when you're working on someone.
Mhm.
Right? Like you're aware of the changes in energy and the shifts, and you're aware of what you're thinking, what you're feeling, and you're aware of like how their body's responding to your touch. And
Mhm.
that's all happening at the same time,
Right.
right? It's like an expansion of your awareness. And horses are like that. Like horses have a really expanded awareness.
Mhm.
And because of
Mhm.
their acute sense of hearing, their smell. They feel vibrations through the earth. They
Mhm.
feel it moves into their body. I mean, and there's so much more that I don't even know, but I know their awareness is really high. And they're also, psychically connected
Mhm.
too,
Mhm.
as we are, right? As we are.
Mhm.
And
Right.
they can really enhance that in us if we allow that, like, just by being in their presence,
Mhm.
just and listening.
Mhm. Yeah, I understand that. Thank you so much. So
Yeah.
this is a very very special way to learn the skill to be in the presence
Hmm.
and also open up the awareness and highly consciousness. keep highly consciousness, be in that present moment, in that energy field.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and consequently, you know,
Mhm.
it's so demonstrative when,
Yes.
yeah, demonstrative in the sense of like when we can be in a place in a of presence and also listening
Mhm.
without pushing, you know, without pushing mentally or emotionally,
Right.
even
Right.
physically, when we're not
Mhm.
pushing, when we're just listening and receiving. Horses
Mhm.
love that. They respond really well to that.
Mhm.
And they come to you. They will come,
Mhm.
you
Mhm.
know, and you don't have to call them or whistle or call their name or give them carrots. You know, it's not
Mhm.
about that. It's about your energy. They respond
Mhm.
to your energy.
Mhm. I see. That's wonderful. It's
Yeah,
wonderful. Thank you very much.
you're welcome.
Mm. So and now you are including of a systematic family constellation, and you learn with Francesca Mason Boring.
Yes.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, would you describe about the systematic family constellation for yourself, and
Yeah.
how do you integrate with horses too?
So the systemic family constellation work was
Mhm.
originally introduced to everyone from Bert Hellinger, who's German, who just passed, I think, a year ago.
Oh, oh.
And he he wanted to help heal the transgenerational trauma in Germany with the
Mhm.
Holocaust.
Mhm.
He understood that trauma gets passed down through generations,
Mhm.
and he understood how powerful the ancestors are.
Mhm.
And he lived in Africa. He lived with the Zulus as a missionary,
Mhm.
and he learned a lot. And he integrated that into contemporary therapies when he came back.
Mhm.
And he basically put together family constellations and brought
Mhm.
it to
Mhm.
people in the 90s. So it's relatively new, but the therapy itself is old, you know,
Mm.
has that ancestral
Mhm.
ceremonial rites and, you know,
Mhm.
principles that are old.
Right, right.
And Francesca had trained with him, and then Francesca was doing a training in 2008. So I did it. It was a year long,
Mhm.
and um, it's a powerful therapy. It's
Mhm.
working with the field or an energetic field, you know, pulling in information through the body, through the feelings.
Mhm.
And so with the horses,
Mhm.
this is my opinion, you know, but it could change. I changed my mind a lot about things because I'm constantly wanting to be open to new information. I don't want to get stuck in like it's like this and
Right.
but as of now, the way that I see it is that because horses are a herd, they are connected, they're social like us, right?
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
they are very aware of the energy in the
Mhm.
system, whether it's a herd or a family. So when
Mhm.
we're working in family constellations, we're working in the system of the family.
Right.
Like we have a mother, we have a father, we have a grandfather, you
Mhm.
know, as
Mhm.
the way things are right now, that's pretty
Mhm.
true for everyone, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
And when any one of those is denied, like or excluded, it
Mhm.
creates kind of chaos, right? Because
Mhm.
the truth is not being seen. It's like
Mhm.
there's a tension or whatever.
Mhm. Mhm.
So the horses can feel the
Mhm.
tension when
Mhm.
there's uh, like a like kind of like a void or uh, sorry, I just had to let the dog in. I'm sorry. Hold on. Anyway, the horses have a sense of when it's out of balance,
Mm.
and they have a sense of tension because horses want everything to be in balance, and they will go towards
Mm.
balance. The same as
Ah.
nature. In nature, it does that, right? There could be like a huge storm or thunderstorm or something like that, lightning, and then everything kind of comes into balance. It could be like chaos and then the calm or whatever, but there's a sort of always a movement towards equilibrium, and the horses are like that, you know, so they will support that within the system, and that could look like the horse nudging someone towards someone else in the constellation, that the horse feels like you need to connect to this person because this will like balance out the energy or something like that. I mean, I know it sounds crazy, but that's like how it works. You understand?
Yes.
Yeah. And they do that. The horses will push people towards people, or they will like stand in between people. It's almost like they're reflecting. They're showing what's going on. They're showing, you know, who's missing, or they're showing like where there's, you know, things are not being, people are not being seen, or where there's a obstacle, things like that. So that helps me like, oh, what needs to happen here? And what needs to happen is, you know, this person has to look at this person in the eye and say something very simple and true, like, I see you, you know. And then the horses also do things like yawn, or they let out sounds. And it's almost like a orchestra. I always feel like it's very musical in a constellation. And you know, someone will say something and the horse goes or something.
Yes.
And it's like a validation, you know. Yeah, like that.
It's Little Bear is speaking now?
No, that was Foxy. Yeah,
Foxy.
Yeah, so horses, I feel, really enhance the constellation work. Like they make it really visceral, and there's no denying it. You cannot deny that didn't happen. I mean, that happened, and everybody saw it, and it's mystical, you know, and magical.
Yes.
And it pulls people out of their limitations and their like thoughts about healing has to be a certain way, or it has to be, you know, make sense. You know, healing doesn't make sense. Makes sense.
Yes.
You know, and healing can be immediate. It's not about waiting 5 years or 2 years. You know, it's like, no, let's do this now. You know, that's like family constellation. Let's change things now. You know, and the horse's response is blows people's minds.
Because the truth is there, the people's deeper part of the brain got that information. That's why sometimes maybe our intellectual mind cannot figure it out so much in that moment, but it stays in our deeper part, the frequency of the truth, which horses can bring us into the field.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
That's wonderful. And also you've been offering training offsite and internationally and locally. Would you tell me about more about this? Like, what's it like to work with horses you haven't met?
Yeah. I was in Bulgaria last year with horses I'd never met. I've been to other places in the United States and worked with horses I'd never met. And I can pretty much tell if a horse is going to be good at the work, meaning are they going to be, you know, okay? Like, because I feel like any horse can really participate in it. But like I said earlier, if the horse is traumatized or has, you know, issues or is not happy, it's not going to really be good, you know. But if, you know, there's horses that are really interactive and they love people and they want to, they're happy to be present with people, and those horses are great, you know. So when I Yeah, I usually see a picture or a photo or a video before I go, you know. But when I was
Mm,
in Bulgaria, I didn't see anything. I just went there, and there was a lot of horses. There was 16, so I was able to choose horses that I felt would be appropriate, and
mhm,
it worked out really well. I mean, it was pretty amazing, actually.
mm.
The point is the horse is not trained to do the work. You don't
Right.
have to train a horse to be in a family constellation. Obviously, the horse, like I said, has to be able to be comfortable around people. You know.
Mhm, mhm.
But I also, you know, like when I went to Japan, we did the constellations in nature, which was
Right.
there was no horses, but also being outdoors, being in nature, being in such a strong force, you know,
Mhm, mhm,
under the sunlight, under the clouds, with the wind,
mhm.
and doing the work. That the weather almost brings you to a presence as well, right?
Right.
Because you're really conscious of like what the weather's like when you're
Mhm,
in a room, sometimes you're in
mhm,
artificial
mhm,
lighting,
mhm,
you kind of maybe lose a little connection, you know. But when you're outdoors, especially when you have your feet in water like we did in Tokyo that time,
mhm,
and and there's a natural flow of water, like that was a
mhm,
natural flow of water, right?
mhm. Yes.
That is so powerful, so
Mm.
powerful to be in
That's
that
beautiful.
environment and then
Mhm,
do the kind of very deep work that
mm,
constellations offer,
mhm.
and for momentous change.
Right.
Yeah,
That's great. Thank you so much.
you're welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So I learned a lot today. So now we are going to have a retreat in April. Do you have any message for Japanese people?
Yeah, I do. I just want to say I'm so honored that your students are willing to come all this way. You know, I know how far it is because I went there.
Mm-hmm.
It's
That's right.
also, you know, a big investment, time and money and energy and like organizing and everything.
Mm-hmm.
I understand that, and I'm so honored that they would consider even coming here. And I
Mm-hmm.
want to tell your students who are coming, who are thinking of coming, you know, I'm gonna I am gonna, you know, give you my best. I'm gonna give you my best, and I want to share with you
Mm-hmm.
so- something here that you can take back with you and you can utilize in your
Mm-hmm.
work or your practice. You know,
Mm-hmm.
you don't have to have horses to be able to do what I'm going to teach you.
Mm.
You
I
know,
see. That's beautiful. Thank you very much. And one more thing. So your location in Ranchita is great. Like something very unusual is the way to live in as off grid.
yes.
So would you give us some like words for your environment?
I'd say it's as natural probably as you're going to find in the sense of, you know, everything. There's no concrete here. There's
Mm-hmm.
no buildings.
Mm-hmm.
There's everything's kind of temporary.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And there's we have our own well water, and there's like compost toilets, and
Mm-hmm.
you know, we have some solar as well, so
Mm-hmm.
there is some electric, but it comes from the sun.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a I love it. It
Mm-hmm.
gets me very connected to the stars at night. The stars are
Mm-hmm.
very visible at night. There's no light pollution here.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I get up before sunrise and I
Mm-hmm.
experience sunrise every morning and I experience sunset every night.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm very in tune with the rhythms, the
Mm-hmm.
moon cycle, you know,
Mm-hmm.
being outdoors a lot. This is a
Mm-hmm.
very outdoor lifestyle, even in the winter. It's an
Mm-hmm.
outdoor lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel it's really healthy for me anyway. I love it. It's not
Mm-hmm.
for everyone.
Mm-hmm. That's
But
beautiful. It's gonna help us to connect with nature more intimate way.
yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's great. Thank you. I think I asked almost everything.
Okay. Well, that
Yes.
was great. I really
Yes.
appreciate you taking time to interview me,
Uh,
Kyoko. And
my pleasure. I'm so touched by everything what you said, and it's gonna be really good. Uh, good. It's gonna be good. Give us good insight. Who
yes,
we gonna feel. We gonna
that would be
learn with
great.
you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that would be great. And I'm happy to answer any questions, that
Mm-hmm.
any of your students might have about coming here, or
Mm-hmm.
kind of experience they might, have. Like, I'm happy to answer any questions as long as they're
Okay.
translated.
Okay. I will. I will. So I'm going to close the recording right now.